Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Future Quake Show. I am Dr. Future.
And I am Tom Bionic.
And we're back for another week, and you've got an incredible guest. You're going to be doing the interviewing this week, correct?
Yes, I kind of take the reins here this week. We're going to have our good buddy Chris Vanover in, and also, of course, Dr. Future. What's going on is Dr. Future gave an interesting little talk up in Montreal, and he's going to be filling the audience in.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to be in the guest chair this time.
You are
talking about this trip.
It's cushier than the host chair. Let me tell you.
Oh yeah, it stinks to be you, particularly when you have crummy guests. And I don't mean about Pastor Chris, but we're going to talk about the invitation I had to speak in front of a group on religion and spirituality that Dr. John Rosner has been a prior guest on our show called. Yeah. It was a tremendous opportunity, and I think people are going to find it fascinating to hear what we talk about.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to talk about, and you're going to get a chance to interview myself and Pastor Chris Vanover.
Well, I was looking forward to it. You guys were great as interviewees, I guess. Mm-hmm. That's how you would pronounce that, interviewees. And I think the audience should be pleasantly surprised.
So with no further ado, let's go on to the interview.
Let's roll.
And then we'll be right back at the end after this segment of the interview on Future Quake.
Well, good afternoon, fellow Futurians. Today on Future Quake, we've got a voice you're probably familiar with hearing, as well as one that hasn't been on the show, but has been a longtime friend of ours. Respectively, that's our very own Dr. Future, accompanied with our good buddy Chris Vanover, who's a pastor over at Calvary Chapel, Rivergate. Dr. Future was actually asked to speak in an organization that some of our longtime listeners might remember, an organization called the IIIHS. Dr. Future, Chris, can you give us some background on your initial invitation and how this all came about?
By the way, it's just an honor and a privilege to be on this very esteemed show.
Oh, I know.
I can't believe I had the good fortune to be on here.
You know, Charlie Rose or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a career maker on here, and I just think this is great. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, I think what Pastor Chris and I had to share with you is going to be very, very interesting to our listeners. And I want to thank you, Tom, for taking the lead here with us on it. If I can just give you a heads up to what you asked me about the invite. You know, I can't remember exactly when I first found out about this organization. Mm-hmm. The official name of it is the International Institute of Integral Human Sciences.
Which we found out about doing the show with Dr. John Rosner, as I recall, right?
Well, actually, sometime before that, I stumbled across it, and as I was saying, I can't quite remember how I came across the organization, but I must have linked it, and one day going through some links, I said, oh, this is interesting, and started reading further, and I thought, boy, this would make an interesting topic for a Future Quake show, and was finally able to arrange it in December of last year, I believe. It was mid-December of 2007. We had Dr. John Rosner, who's an Anglican minister and head of this organization in Montreal, Canada. We had a full-length show with his presence there, talking a lot about the very advanced activities that their organization is doing under the auspices of the United Nations and the World Council of Churches, who they're affiliated with. And I can explain a little bit more of the details of the organization maybe after the intro here. But anyway, we had a very interesting show, had a lot of feedback based on what they're doing in spiritual realms. And it was shortly thereafter, I think in January, I actually got a call from them from Montreal, making an offer to see if I would like to speak at their 33rd International Conference on Religion and Spirituality. And I was really floored. This is an organization that has very esteemed household name type people that come speak at this from around the world. And so that provided an opportunity to, of all people, Dr. Future, being invited, representing our show in Future Quake, to have a talk related to the topic. And so after some considerable time leading up to the conference just recently, in the last couple of weeks, preparing a detailed talk for it, went and had a sort of a keynote type address, and followed by a panel discussion, and that's what we'll talk about tonight. And then I got the gentleman to the right of me, who he might want to even just say a few words about himself. But
Chris, why don't you introduce yourself?
This was quite an adventure going up to Montreal, and I wanted to take someone with me to experience it and to make some notes of what they perceived going on, because this was a really cutting-edge meeting of people to find out what was going on internationally in the world of spirituality. And so I took someone who I admired and trusted. I thought a very mature, discerning spirit. And Pastor Chris can share a little bit about his corralling and maybe his motives, why he got involved.
Let's hear from Pastor Chris.
Thanks, guys. I do appreciate the opportunity to be on the show tonight, and also to be able to travel up to Montreal with Dr. Future. Of course, just the adventure, a couple of days with one of my good friends on the road. It was a lot of fun. But I was very curious as to what this whole meeting was going to be about and what was going to be represented there, especially when Dr. Future had explained to me a great deal about it. And so we, of course, attended the conference, and he did his presentation. And not only were we able to listen in on some of the other presentations that were made there and kind of just to sort of examine, I guess, what they were doing, but I think the most fruitful thing for me personally was that we were able to interact with the conference attendees there for about 2.5 days, just in the lobby, in restaurants, just out, in just one-on-one, talking with people. They would ask us questions, we would ask them questions, and I think that was probably the best part of the whole thing. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I'm glad to be on the show. Thanks.
Yeah. So, Dr. Future, can you give us some background, a little more background on the IIIHS organization?
Sure.
What exactly, who are they exactly, how long they've been around, what's their stated end goal?
Well, first of all, let me just say, for any of our listeners there, if you want to get a more complete description of this, go back and listen to our archive show at futurequake.com with Dr. Rosner. And you can hear it directly from him, the leader of the organization.
Interesting Future Quake factoid. That was, I think, the first show that I did with you.
The first Future Quake with Tom Bionic.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Boy, that's just all sorts of synchronicity. This organization, I actually, just to make sure, because it's a very complicated organization, what you would expect an international group it would be. And I want to make sure I get it factual and correct on it. So I actually took this right off the website.
Great.
If anybody wants to check it in more detail, just go to iiihs.org. And we suggest, I know a few of our listeners have told me they've already been there. What they say at the top, the International Institute of Integral Human Sciences is a non-governmental organization, NGO, which is a common umbrella group within the UN, affiliated with the United Nations Department of Public Information, promoting educational programs for the 21st century. They work in many nations toward the convergence of new sciences with spirituality and universal human values, creating interreligious and intercultural understanding for world peace. For over a quarter century, the IIIHS has developed at one time or another and had professional general membership of persons in 26 countries. And just a few other things that they cover in this organization. One of their goals relates to interreligious and intercultural understanding for world peace. They explore new sciences of consciousness and healing, new paradigms for the convergence of science, spirituality, and humane values in the global village, new insights into the human psyche and spirit. And this started in 1975 with a global network of over 300 fellows, which is sort of an advanced position within this group, including distinguished scientists and spiritual leaders from many faiths and lands, including medical doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, natural scientists, and scholars in the humanities and arts, as well as clergy and educators. It's led by Dr. John Rosner, an Anglican priest and professor of comparative religion. A couple other things I get into is the integration of new sciences of consciousness and healing into planetary educational systems for the 21st century, a global family, East and West, with a noble objective. They serve over 10,000 general members and students from all walk of life. And that's just the people. I think each of those people, as I understand it, have their own groups in different local regions. So that 10,000 is just the people directly connected.
I'm surprised
that serve other chapters.
How big this organization is.
It's extremely big, and what I find amazing is I don't meet anyone else who's generally familiar with the group itself. Yeah. Just a few other quick things that I thought our listeners might find interesting. They are look at the common bond of universal human experiences in psyche, spirit, and transformation. And they say that the world's scientific and religious communities urgently need to be brought together to focus on the upliftment of the quality of human consciousness and universal values. Organized religion is half of the cultural equation, with organized science to further the elevation of human consciousness in the global village. And they show on here, like the Dalai Lama has been at their headquarters and been involved, and there's pictures with Pope John Paul. Just a few other quick things I thought that you might be interested related to the group. One of the more provocative areas that they are doing is a new religious order.
A new religious order.
It's a new religious order you can be ordained in, called the Order of the Transfiguration. Their slogan is the new monastics for a new humanity in a new world. And it's a new type of ecumenical Christian religious order with interfaith perspectives, and I believe that means outside Christian faith. It dedicated to education, research, and humanitarian service related to psychophysical integration and psychospiritual awareness. And it says here, just to clarify its role, it's a new ecumenical order with links to the United Nations and World Council of Churches. The Order of the Transfiguration is an ecumenical religious group in the Catholic Christian tradition, affiliated with the International Council of Community Churches, which is part of the National Council of Churches USA and World Council of Churches. And the corporate status of the Order of the Transfiguration is part of an interfaith studies division with the IIIHS that's affiliated with the United Nations. And there's a whole bunch of information you can check on the website about it. One of the interesting things it covers is the convergence of human potentials with the mysteries of redemption. The order believes we must develop an intuitive awareness of multidimensional divine reality. It says the Order of the Transfiguration, I'll just wrap up here, also believes that the modern church cuts itself off from the greatest foundational experiences as follows: visions, apparitions, post-mortem contacts with the dead saints, invocations of saints and angels, prophecies, healings, the ongoing process of personal revelations of saints and mystics. In the history of Christianity and other world religions, ancient and modern, the nature and uses of ritual and sacramentals as effective instruments of the mystery of redemption. So that gives you a little bit about it. Wow. Obviously, I think most listeners would find that very, very interesting. And then in closing, it says that they're developing a new curriculum for Catholic Christian formation. I think it's Catholic in a more holistic way. It says it's to study and integration of such subjects into a new curriculum for a Catholic Christian formation, that the Order of the Transfiguration is dedicated as a midwife of a new humanity in a new world order.
Interesting. So if I heard all that correctly, they're sort of a Christian group that also practices interfaith sort of a theology, including post-mortem contact. Right?
And if you want details, I'd suggest you listen to the show with Dr. Rosner, because I know we got a lot of report here. But they have a wide reach as far as the scope,
would be,
and we saw that. And Chris, you want to elaborate a little bit?
I just want to mention something. I don't know. Just to clarify with your listeners, I don't know if Christian is a good definition or not, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
I'm only using that because they did.
Right. But one other thing I wanted to point out, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Dr. Future, but when we were at the conference, there was a great deal of emphasis on spirituality, religion, that kind of thing. But as we were driving back, we just made a list of the topics that were touched upon, and it was much wider than spirituality and religion. I mean, industry, commerce, poverty, agriculture, technology, militarization, sexuality, media, entertainment, diet, ecology, counseling, medicine. Did I leave anything else? I don't think they talked about fashion.
No.
But so all these other facets of our society and civilization and culture were addressed or talked about or touched upon during this. So they're interested in a lot more than just mysticism and religion.
Their interconnectedness.
Yes, and how they relate to the world at large.
Interesting. Well, and they asked you to speak at this thing, huh?
Right, and if you'd like to, the theme of the conference for this year, this is the 33rd annual year, is called Reconnecting Heaven and Earth in Spirit, Space, and the Human Psyche. And this was held in Montreal. And they say it's a 10-day conference that was just held. Pioneering scientists, scholars, and educators, medical doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, psychotherapists, physicists, biologists, sociologists, religious and spiritual leaders, East and West, from many nations and traditions, including writers, artists, musicians, other gifted souls, including mystics, mediums, healers, and intuitives, will gather in Montreal to share their discoveries at the frontiers of knowledge and the new sciences of consciousness and healing that could potentially reconnect the worlds of spirit and space in the human psyche. And the goal of the conference was toward the co-creation of a better world.